Hi, and welcome to Manny's Makings. Today I'm going to show you how to wire encase a cab, whether it's sort of like the Dreamcatcher where it's just a wire cage, or whether it's Viking knit. You can do either or. It's just a matter of where you put your wire when you do it. But I'm going to show you how to encase this, and then so you know how to actually make an encasement to go around it. So what you need to do is start with a base wire. So we're going to use 18 gauge. I'm going to use copper wire today just for a change, because I'm sure you guys are tired of looking at silver stuff. So I'm just going to take a piece. This isn't a very big cab, so I don't know. I'm just taking a piece that's what, maybe 4 inches. Let me see. Based on your cab is how you decide. Yep, 4 inches. So based on your cab, you decide how much you're going to need to go around it. So I'm going to need a piece, and then I'm going to need a little bit up top, right? So nothing spectacular. Now, one of the things I've learned is, although this cab is oval, and your cab could be like, okay, it could be a Luna cab like this one, and it could be round. Ring mandrels are really handy to sort of start a shape. So when I look at sort of the depth of this and sort of the width of this here, I'm trying to find something that's similar, because I actually want to make it smaller. So let's see. If I do this, that's pretty well the same size right at the bottom. So let's make it a little bit smaller. And I'm leaving one end up higher than the other end. Now let's see how this looks. And I know it's triangular right now, but what I'm trying to do is try to get it so that it's just inside of there, because we're going to turn this into an oval, this round into an oval, and that's really easy to do. So now that I know that that's sort of the size that I need, I'm going to bring this down and make it into a circle. So I have a circle, right? And you're thinking, oh no, what are we doing? So we have a circle. And these are for you newbies who, like, making a weird shape around a cab can be really complicated or really difficult. I want this to be smaller than the cab so that it will, the wires will wrap around the side of the cab as we go, right? So I'm going to bring this in just a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to squish it. I'm holding on to the joint here and I'm going to squish it. Squish the circle. And look at this. I've got a pretty damn good oval. Pretty easy, huh? It's easier to do an oval this way than it is to try to form it and make it go into an oval. And you know my favorite habit when I'm making a pendant or anything else is to make something to go up top. So I'm just going to take this wire, sorry about the noise, I'm going to bend the long piece straight up, and I don't like the way this curve is right here, so let's just straighten out that curve a little bit. Double check it with the cab. I want to make sure it's still smaller. So I'm just trying to get it to go inside the edge of the cab, and the easiest way to do that is just to grab a hold and squeeze a little bit. So I'm just squeezing, I'm just being gentle. So I'm happy with that. Then that gives me a chance to have some wire across the back as I bring it towards the front. Okay, so let's take this longer piece, because there's two pieces here, one's shorter, one's longer. And let's bring it straight up. And guess what I'm going to do next? You guessed it. I'm going to grab a hold of it. Either way, I can grab it with my pliers or with my thumb, and I'm going to start wrapping that around. So once I get it started, I can just hold it with my thumb, and I can even use my pliers if I want to bring it around. So I'm just making one wrap around. Now I can tell that I pulled a little too tight on this side. So let's check, see what's going on. Yeah, it could be a little bit bigger. So let's clean this up. And that's what happens when you pull around something, is that you risk the chance of pulling in. So this is a hot mess now, right? So let's put it back on my ring mandrel. Fix the shape. There we go. Pulled it on my ring mandrel, stretched it out a little bit better shape. And now we're going to squish it into an oval again. A fresh oval. It's still not perfect, but way better. I'm happier with that. I can live with that. Okay, so let's take this and cut it off. And I'm just going to tuck this around the back. Okay, so I have this like little lollipop that's going to go around the back of my cab. I know that if I do it on this, it's going to fit around my cab. So now I need to take some weaving wire. That's my next piece. So let's get this out of the way. And just so you know, I'm using an 18 by 25 millimeter green Nephrite Jade cab. Is what I have here. So I've got some 26 gauge weaving wire. You could do it with 28 gauge, you could do it with 30. It's just going to be finer, and that's a lot of people are moving sort of into the finer realm of things. They're not doing as heavy gauge anymore. They're going finer and finer gauge on smaller and smaller objects. So yeah, I'm going to have to invest in some 28 and 30 gauge, at least more of it. So now we need to make little rings or little loops. Like when we did the dream catcher, we did them inwards. We're going to do them outwards. So there's lots of different ways to do it, but I usually just take it because I have a little bit of space. I just wrap it around there once, and then I hold on to the tail. Okay, so that gives me a starting point, and I can actually cut that off when I get a little bit of distance. Okay, so if you're doing like the dream catcher style, you just bring it up through the loop, and I have about, let me move some of these tools so I don't catch on my wire weaving. I have about 3/4 of a wingspan of weaving wires. I just cut it off. So remember how we did it, where we did it like this? We did the little loop, and then we just came back up. We bent the wire, remember, up and then back around again. Well, you can do it that way, or you can do it, and that would be sort of like a dream catcher style, where you would go in between each of the loops, right? And then that would give you bigger loops along the edge. So this is your choice on what you want to do. I'm going to go smaller on the loop, but I'm going to take my wire now, and I'm going to go back down the actual loop I made. And what that's going to do is cause, see how it's making a loop around the wire? So I'm going to pull this in tighter. I need it to be smaller, way smaller, to make me happy. There we go. All right, and then once you have it like that, so that's, if you look at this, it's sort of like the beginning of a Viking knit, and then you would bring your wires in between those two wires every time you go around. So let's do another one. Sometimes you can do this all in one. I'm going to bring it up and bring it back through the loop so that I've got that circle created. Hold it where I want it. Tuck this in. Bring it in smaller, 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 smaller. Okay, I'm good. I'm doing bigger loops because I want you to see that you can do different size loops. It depends on what you want. Okay, I'm going to continue to do this all the way around, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the second set. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the extra wire here. So I'm on my last, I just wanted to get that out of the way. And if I need to, I can tuck it in, but it was pretty tucked in. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth one sort of at the bottom, and then 1, 2, 3, and I have to make one more, and so then I'll be equal on both sides. Part of this technique is to try to keep things as consistent as possible. And the more you do it, the more consistent you can be. So you just have to practice. You just have to wrap a bunch of stuff, even though you may not absolutely love it. You'll get better at it. So again, just to, so you know, I went down through the bottom. Okay, this is my last one. Going down through the bottom, and then when I come up through the bottom, I'm going to take my hand underneath the wire through the hoop, and I'm going to pull. So I have this kind of setup where the wire's coming below. It's through here, and then out. Can you see how the wire goes there? That's why I'm doing it a bigger shot for you, so you can see that the wire goes there. So when I pull, now this time I have to watch about the top here, make sure it stays behind. So when I pull, it makes this smaller loop like this. And then as I'm pulling in tighter, see, I'm pulling it in tighter, I'm holding it with my thumb here, sort of forcing some spacing involved. And this one, I can't pull in really tight because of the top, so I go there. So now I need to move in a space. So I'm going to actually do another loop and start the process, and I'm doing the loop on the top. Let's move that out of the way. Move that out of the way so I can get it to focus for you. I'm going to do one across the top here and come into this one right here, the first one that I started. Okay, let me zoom in just a little bit because I'm high up today. I just wanted you to see more wire so you can see a little bit more of what's going on. Okay, so I have my loops. Not perfect, but they're close enough for me showing you this. Now I'm also doing it out of, ParaWire. If I was doing this out of sterling silver, I would go way slower and I would take my time to make sure they're all perfect. So again, I have my wire. I have my going through the loop, the next loop, and then I'm going to bring my wire through and underneath the other wire. Okay, and I want this to come down. I got to hold this loop really tight because I don't want to pull the loop. And I'm going to bring this across. So what that's done now is it's given me another loop across the top that will pull across the top of the cab. And now I'm ready to start my Viking knit. So I'm going to go in this one. I've got my wire caught around my camera. That was fun. I'm going to go in that one, the second one, and I'm going to go back in the first one. Okay, that'll make it look hard. There we go. All right, so the idea is I want to wrap around that post. That's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to wrap around the post and the post only. Okay, and as you pull, you start to get another loop. See another loop? And I'm just going to pull it so it's nice and even. And I'm going to do it again. My wires, I'm wrangling my wire, my weaving wire. I don't have much, but it's being really persnickety today. So I'm going to go in the next one, 2 over. And when you do Viking knit on another kind of platform where you're going around and around and around, it's very different than this. So I've got a kink in my wire, but it's down near the end, so I'm not worried about it. I just have to clear the kink when I'm coming through this loop. There we go. So coming through. And so what it does is it lays down another loop on top of this loop. So you're just going to bring it in and bring it around. And so you want to keep some spacing. So you have your 2 loops and you have space. See how there's space between each of the loops? Because that's where you're going to bring your next wire. It's between those 2 spaces instead of the, and you can tweak it, work with it, play with it. I'm going to do this all the way around until I get to the end. And then I'm going to, right now I can see that if I put my cab on it, I can just start to see the second wire. So I can actually do a 3rd row, and I would do it the same way. And when I've done the 3rd row, then I'm ready to bring it up and start cinching it in. I want to clear the sides of the cab so that when I start to cinch, it starts to bring it up and around. So I'm going to do 2 more rows, and then I'm going to come back, and then we'll start the cinching process so you can see how that goes. Okay, so after you get a couple rows done, I want to show you something. So I've got a couple of rows done. I made it to past the first one, and I'm getting ready to do my 3rd row. So now I have this space that I can actually, I've flipped it over. This is the way I was doing it before. And I can go through just like you would do normal Viking knit. You just go through here, underneath the loop, underneath that loop, and then you can pull. If I can get my fingers to cooperate here. Here we go. Okay, so then I can pull, and I'm making my next loop. So again, pull, make my next loop. So there I don't know if you can see that, but that's Viking knit, where you have the one and the next one, the next one, the next one. So I'll show you that one more time. So once you get a couple of rounds done, it's going to make it easier for you to see. And you can go 2 up and then do every 2 up, or you can do twice through the same hole. When you're going around, you can vary how you do this. So I'm just making a little bit of a hook there so I could grab a hold of it, hopefully. There we go. So I have it, I put it through. So I come from here where I was coming out, I went 2 away, just like we were doing before, except we were doing it this way. We were doing it this way. So now I'm doing it this way. Okay, so for some who are familiar with Viking knit, this would be a little bit more familiar of what you're doing. And I want you to see when I get to the third round here, I'm basically creating like a little basket. Let's push that back a bit. You can start to see it's starting to poke out around my cab pretty good. So I'm going to keep going and, you know, keeping it fairly flat at this point because I want it to come past my cab. And then once it does, I can start doing it while I'm holding my cab in place. I want to get another round on, and then I'm probably going to be good the following round. And I still have a decent amount of weaving wire, so I should be good. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm doing my Viking knit, another round, and then when I get back to here, I'm going to start probably tightening it. We'll see how we are with the amount. Now, a lot of people, if you want to do a Viking knit around a big cab, I'm going to talk about wire a little bit. You can start and stop, especially up in here, you can start and stop a new wire really easily. Viking knit can be very, very frustrating if you have too much wire. Not to mention that it gets work hardened as you go. So please don't cut off like, you know, 10 feet of wire and try to work with it. You will get frustrated and throw it across the room. Promise you. So I never work with more than a wingspan because I can deal with a wingspan. If you can only work with a half a wingspan, work with half a wingspan. Work with what's comfortable to you. You're going to do a much better job than, you know, and sure, you have to figure out how to put new wire on. So you wrap it around here and then start the next set. Wrap it around the top here, right around this post if you want. Start the next set. Nobody's going to see this behind the cap. It's, you know, it's not a do or die. And I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of really pretty pictures that you see on the internet with beautiful jewelry never show you the back because all their sins are hidden on the back. So just know that, you know, your expectations you have of yourself are the only thing that'll stop you from doing this. You can do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one's going to notice. The better you get, the more consistent you get is what counts. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. So just work at it and you'll do much better. I'll be back when I get ready to cinch in the cab. Okay, so we're ready to start cinching in. Woohoo! So I've been working this way, so we're going to continue to work this way, and I'm holding on my cab. I'm going to put the wire in this way, so I'm going down through the second one away from me, and I'm coming back up the first one. Alright, and then I'm going to pull, and I'm going to hold this in the center as I pull, and I'm going to pull towards the front. Oops, pull towards the front as I'm doing my basket. That's what this looks like, a fryer basket to me. It always looks funny. I got another weaving wire in the way here. Get out of the way. Something else I was working on. So I'm going to come back down that one, and if you need to, you can bring it down and bring it back up. And I need more light to see. I'm hoping I got the right wire there. Yeah, looks like it. Okay, so when I get close, I'm going to take it and I'm going to pull upwards. I'm pulling upwards. So I'm starting to mold it around my cab. See how it's starting to come up the side of my cab? Lovely. Okay, so now I can, now that I'm away from the thing, I can sort of do this a little bit better. Bring it down there, up here. Come on, get up there. I gotta get up between those two wires, and they're pretty tight. And I can't see. Nope. So I'm just moving my stone out of the way. Okay, so they're too tight in here. Just gonna take my pliers and try to move that away a little bit so I can see the space. There we go. There, I can get in there. Put my cab back in. Get the wire out from underneath my cab so I can pull nice and smoothly. There we go. Got my cab back in where I want it to sit. I got my thumb pressed against my cab, and I'm taking it and I'm pulling upwards. Okay? And I'm just going to keep doing that, and I'm sort of molding it a little bit to my cab. So I'm going to do this round. As I tighten it, you can see it gets tighter, and I'm going to do another round. And then we'll I'll show you how I would finish it when we come back. Okay, so as you can see, I've got it cinched in. I can pack it down a little tighter, but I'm still working with it. So I've taken it to this far because that's where sort of my starting point was. So I have the equal amounts, and as you can see, it looks quite beautiful on the sides of this. It's not perfect, but as far as if you want to wire weave or put something on top of that, you can attach something to the back quite easily by bringing it underneath. I'm actually thinking of turning this into a turtle, when I might show you pictures of that at the end, what that looks like. But yeah, so this is an easy way to encase a cabochon, and this can work for any shape, any size, and it's not going anywhere, and it's quite neat and clean. So all we have left to do is get rid of this wire. So what do we do with this wire? Well, what I usually like to do is just take it back underneath one of these stems of little loops. And usually I need my magnifier just to see this, but alright, I can't see it, so we're going to just do it the other way. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to cut it off close to where I would do the loop, because I'm going to pretend I'm doing a loop but not do a loop. Okay? So I'm going to take the end of that wire, and I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to tuck it under, just like as if I was doing a loop. Okay, so I'm going to pull that wire up a bit. I'm going to use my thumbnail rather than my pliers. I don't mark it. Tuck that underneath, and I'm tucking that right underneath that wire. And I wish I could see better. That's the problem for me doing the dark colors for you guys in a tutorial. I can't see as well. The silver I can see much better. But I'll clean that up. You get the idea. You go that underneath with that so that it just tucks underneath, just like as if the rest of them do. They sort of tuck underneath each other. And you have this, see, it's all caged in. So now the only thing you have left to do is to make sure that this is centered. And if I need to bring it over a little bit, I can. So I'm just bringing this over to the center, what looks almost centered. Now, at this point, depending on what you want to do with it, if you want to make a bail, this is small enough that this could be easily done into an earring. If you want to make a bail, you can wrap 2 loops around this way to make a bail, or you could just make a simple loop and use this as hanging on something. So let's just do a simple loop. So I'm just going to make sure that this is centered. I don't like the way where it's sitting. I want to make sure it looks centered in the center of the back. Okay, so I need my round nose pliers, or a bail plier, or yeah, whatever you want to make. I want to make this loop pretty big. Nice big fat loop. I'm ready to read it. Bring that around the back. Yeah, it still doesn't feel like it's sitting centered, so I'm having trouble with that, with this not feeling like it's sitting centered. There we go. That feels a little better. Hate when it doesn't want to do that. I'm going to take this and wrap this around. Let me use my other... Yeah, I can use my nylon gel pliers. Doesn't really matter. Whatever grips easily and doesn't mark my stuff is what makes me happy. So I'm going to just take this around. In this case, I'm just going to do 1 wrap on the wrap loop. This is 18 gauge. I don't need more than 1 wrap. And doing this on an angle that you guys can see is like crazy. Okay. Much easier with my fingers. So I'm going to cut that off. At the back, nice and tidy. Tuck it in. There. So I have this lovely pendant. Let's back it out a little bit. There we go. So I have this lovely pendant that can be used. I can turn this sideways to put it through. I can hook this on an earring finding if I want, and it's neat and tidy. There's nothing causing any problems. I could add other wires to it at this point. I could just finish this wire off and tuck it under the back. And then, this could be a center to other pieces I add. So this is just a basic Viking knit, how to, do a Viking knit around a cabochon. And this works great for weird size and weird shaped beads. So if you have something that's all like funky shaped, totally crazy, this works really good because it'll hug to whatever shape you're putting it on. So take care and keep on making from Annie's Makings and have fun. Bye!